Hey everyone, welcome to Z's Bees. We're doing a follow-up here to my splits video. We're just going to do kind of a general overall inspection of the hives that we made splits from and then the splits as well. You'll notice a little bit here, built a new stand as well as have 3 additional hives over in this location. So this yard right now has 9 hives. And so the honey producers are the ones that I made splits from. They're still probably much stronger, but hopefully by the time that we hit peak nectar flow, we have several different hives that are producing honey. So just getting my smoker rolling here a little bit, and we're going to dive into it. So we'll check these next. Each one of those has a bucket of feed on them and a pollen patty. And then these ones over here, I don't really have, I didn't add anything because there was nectar that was coming in as well as a significant amount of pollen. I just lost my little guard here. It's a windy day, so I'm going to put that back on. We'll see how that works out. So we're going to jump into this hive. Again, we made splits off of these. So Molly, if you want to just come right over here. And already they're in the top cover a little bit. Looks like they're doing well just based on the top board or inner cover population. This second box, again, was completely empty because we took that as a split. So let's see what we're doing in here. I like to start. You see how they're kind of up there? I like to use a little bit of puff of smoke. They're building up pretty quick. We'll take out this drone comb first. They're not building anything on this yet. But again, this is only a week old. This box was mostly drawn comb. This was added after the split was taken off. So some of that was already drawn out. Just taking a look at some of it here. Some of the major drawn comb was the center frames. And it looks like they've made their way up here. This is a pollen food frame. If you want to get ultra close, I'll kind of even like almost right on top of them. I'll use the little pointer here. That's a drone right there. Most of these are workers. This is a big drone right here. Drones don't have stingers. The yellow one here, that's pollen. So they have food. You see this liquid up here, that's all nectar. And that would be nectar from the outside because I'm not feeding this colony at this point because there was dandelions and a whole bunch of other trees that were starting to really produce a nectar flow. And I don't see any eggs in there, but based on the fact that there's food, likely the next frame over, we should see some eggs, hopefully, which means that the queen would have made her way back up to the top. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't find the queen on this frame. Looks like there's already larvae in there, which is hatched out eggs. A couple bees with pollen in their pollen pouches. Again, just doing a quick glance, I don't see any swarm cells at all. There's hatched out larvae in there. A lot of young bees. They're just really small. We'll go one more over. And I'm mainly just kind of double checking these. I am going to have to really watch this hive for swarming. They're already, when they fill up this, and I see my queen right there. Do you guys see her? Got the big hind end. So she is there. She's looking for a place to lay. You see her peek in that hive, or in that cell. Big, beautiful queen. You guys seeing her? So she doesn't like the light, so she's kind of trying to figure out where to go. So now, ultra gently, because I know that that queen is over there, I'm going to just real lightly slide those frames over to give her enough time if she was on the edge to get back. So she's up in that box already. That's what I like to see. So this hive here, again, also had a split. I have a little shim on the back. Now, if you want to come over on this side, if I don't fall over. Just right over here. So I had this little shim right here because when I used the double screen dividing board, that entrance was on the back. So I gave them just a little bit of room to be able to come back in here, and you'd never even know I made a split on this hive. This is exactly what I want to see, but I'm going to have to even consider splitting them again, just from the standpoint of when that nectar flow starts, I think they're going to probably be looking to swarm again. I want to time it out so they're still strong enough to um, collect honey, but not so strong that they want to swarm. So I give myself a little bit of room. It looks like I put a couple frames of honey in this box. So they're filling out nectar. That's the shiny stuff. A lot of drones in here, and then in the middle there is pollen. So again, we'll see now if, because that was a pollen frame, we'll see what they've done on this next one. Keep a real close eye for that queen. I don't see her there. A lot of drones hatched out, a lot of young bees, little small ones. I don't see the queen there. It's real dark. This is probably dandelion pollen right there, that real orange. You'd think it'd be yellow, but it's real orange in that pollen pouch. We'll go one over. It's crazy to think that this hive was split completely in half. Again, I'm going to really look hard for that queen because this frame here is just looks so perfect to be laid out. I don't see any. Well, I do see eggs down in here. If you can get super close to those, you can probably see the eggs. Oh, and what do we see right up over here? Look at that big dark queen. Look at how pretty she is. Wow. Okay, so we're going to close them up. So again, that method of splitting, we didn't have to find the queen. We just ensured that she was down there. And that is just showing you that that method just ensures the queen stays in the parent hive. So both our queens are in the upper box, meaning that the lower boxes are probably brood and hatching out. Really good. Sometimes when you're inspecting, things just go really well. So I spent my first couple times down here, didn't see a single queen, and now one or two frames in, we see it. Now the really interesting part, I'm going to check out some of these splits that I made. You want to come over here, Molly? This is one that I could not find the marked queen. Remember, this down here was the split. Up here I just have, this is just to protect the hive. I did not see the queen in this box. It was my only split that I didn't see the marked queen. She had been released. The cage was empty, but I didn't see her in there. I went through quite a bit. So not the end of the world. We'll just have to really pay attention to if we can find her in there. These are going to look really light as far as total bee population, because again, this was a split. Now, let's see. Okay, so the population actually looks pretty good. You see they're really chewing on this pollen patty that I put in there. That's good. That means that hopefully they're feeding their young. Let's see what they've done on the backside. Perfect. You see they've chewed through the wax paper. So we're going to gently set this aside. And I'm going to give it a really good, we're looking for a green dot. That means that the queen hatched out in 2024. The color is the year in which the queen is from. Typically your younger queens produce better. Okay, so that's nectar. They're bringing in nectar. I don't see any eggs over here, but again, she would have just been released. So her laying pattern, I wouldn't expect to see a ton of eggs, if at all. If I start to see queen cups, I know that maybe they're starting to look for a queen. The temperament of this hive leads me to believe that there is a queen. See how calm they are? This hive is about ready to explode when all this brood comes out. I put about 4 frames of brood into these splits. I'd really love to see that queen in here. Oh, there she is. There, I went through her. There's a green dot queen.
to the other side,
Yep.
didn't she?
She doesn't like the light, so I'm going to be really careful. So you see she's hanging out on the bottom. If I just slam this frame down, there's a chance I could squish her. So she's dancing around the bottom. I'm going to keep her on the bottom and then I'll flip it over. So you see her right here in the middle. That's a green dot queen. That means that the beekeeper, when she was mated, went through and put a little dot on her. So this makes me very, very happy. I am going to close this up. Let's just see over here once, since we know where the queen is, if she's laid anything out. Boy, I would say I spent 10 minutes trying to find that queen when I did these splits. Couldn't find it. So I don't see any eggs there. Potentially some in there, but that almost looks like old remnants. I don't think that's actually eggs. Let's go over one more. I don't see any eggs there, but she has room. Nothing there. But based on the temperament of these bees, I really thought there was a queen in there because they weren't roaring, they weren't doing anything that made it seem like they were queenless. Again, I don't see any eggs yet. We're still pretty fresh. We'll go over one more just because I can't leave good enough alone. A lot of young bees. Not yet. Check this side. Oh, there we go. She's laying. Right in there, you see all the eggs. If you get super close, get like an inch or two and try to get right over the tops of the angle. I don't know if that's going to focus or not.
I think so.
Yep, in there you'll see those eggs. All right. Now I'm very gently going to push these back together. I know my queen was on this frame. She might have moved. So you see the population that's in here. Plenty of bees for the split that we made. So the method that we used worked. I believe this one that was moved right here was potentially just from right over here. I don't remember exactly which one came from which. I made these inner covers just with a 1/2 inch board. It just holds the feeder a little bit better. It doesn't sag with some of the 1/4 inch. So I'll put the pollen patty right back on. We'll put this on. We'll put their feed back on. This is just protection. I put a camera down here, one to make sure that everything's good, but it also lets me see any sort of critters that are moving around. It's a wireless camera. I know, pretty next level stuff. I know Molly, it's Mother's Day today, is very happy about that. All right. We'll keep going here. This is going to be a little bit, probably about a 20-minute video, but we'll just go through. So right now we have 3 queen-right colonies. This one's going to explode when that brood hatches out. We have a laying queen. So now let's see how good we are and let's keep going. So again, this population is really strong. I see that they have, I'll just get this, they're diving into this pollen patty. I have my own recipe. Again, kind of the similar thing. They're eating through that wax paper. They're usually taking in pollen when they're feeding brood. I really want to boost them up. I have about a 1-to-1 sugar-water ratio, which gets them to draw a comb and feed as well. So again, we're looking for a green dot. This is nectar, whether that's from my pail. I don't really see a lot of foragers going out yet. These are all very young bees. Foragers are your older bees. We wanted a bunch of young bees when we did the split because they're much more accepting to a new queen. So let's see if we can find another green dot in here. The marked queens are usually a little more expensive, but they sure do make it easy to find the queen. And also to know how old they are. Last year I caught a red dot queen in a swarm. And I didn't have any marked queens last year, so it was somebody else's. Check this. And our splits are looking solid as far as the amount of brood that's in there. All looks healthy. So I see a little starter here. That's nothing to be afraid of. There she is. Right there's the queen. You see the little green dot? She's smaller. Her abdomen hasn't swelled up a lot yet. So I'm just going to put her back in there. As the food and the bees call for it, her abdomen will really swell up and she'll really start to lay like crazy as long as there's pollen and food coming in. So that's 4 queen right colonies. Again, this was another split that we made. We split within the same yard. That was one of my big things is as a hobbyist beekeeper, I wanted to split my hives, but everything says 2 feet or 2 months. Ah, good call. See, too much talking. What I was saying is I wanted to split my hives within the same yard, but everyone says 2 feet or 2 miles. Well, I didn't have a whole lot of other bee yards. But this method with the young nurse bees, you just allow those foragers to go back to the main colony, but all those nurse bees stick around. So this has moved about 10 feet from the original colony, and they're doing just fine. All right, you doing good, Molly? All right. One of the things I am going to do over here, if you look up, this area is kind of shaded. I'm going to trim these trees out after this. I believe this is a buckthorn. It's flowering and you can just see the bees flying and hitting it. But I'm going to trim it out. If you have hives in a shaded area, you become real susceptible to small hive beetles. We don't have a huge issue around here, but I have seen small hive beetles around, and it just seems like this area, if we set it up for it, could potentially run into it. All right, so this is a very light population on this split, but they are eating the pollen patty. You see they're a little bit behind. They're just getting through. I'll give them a couple little holes in there to start chewing. This one, there's definitely bees in here, but not as many as the last 2. That's okay. I'll start over here because I know that these drone comb frames come out easy. All right, we got bees over here. We got some pollen that's in there. This will be a great frame for the queen to come lay in when she's ready. Drawn comb. Looking solid. Some drone comb in there. Looking for a green dot. I don't see it on that frame. All right, so I see potentially, I think those are just drone comb. I want to make sure that the queen is in here because I am seeing some makeshift queen cells. So before I go and tear down those queen cells, I want to make sure that there she is. Okay, so there is a queen in here. So we're going to keep an eye on this one. So there's a queen in there. You see she's looking. Let's see if she puts her butt in there. Again, pretty small, but again, she was in a cage. So once she really starts to get to laying, we'll see if she lays an egg. No, not yet. Okay, but there's a queen in there, and the temperament of the bees is indicative of that. Now, we'll keep an eye on this. I might tear down. So there's a little bit of brood, a little bit of brood. No eggs yet. So let's take this back out. What I was looking at is these ones here. Those are definitely little queen cells, but because there's a queen in there, maybe they just didn't release her in time and they started to build those. And then over here, they're real small. So I'm just going to take those out. There's a queen in there. I'm going to keep an eye on it. If the queen isn't the best, they may look to supersede her. But then we'll see. But the fact that there's a queen in there, that's good. So we have 5 queen-right colonies. Really want to pay attention to this split to see what they do in the next coming days. The population on this hive is probably the least as well from all my other splits. All right. You still good if we do a couple more?
Yep.
All right. So this was the hive that we didn't split a week ago because it was just a little bit light. Now the question is going to be, do I need to split it now? Couple ants were just running around a little bit. So this, a little bit of food left in there. This was a double deep. Molly, if you want to come kind of like right here, we'll see what we're dealing with on the inside. So they only had about 3 frames on top. And unless I want to swarm, I'm going to have to really pay attention to this hive. They have devoured another pollen patty, and they're extended out now, 1, 2, 3, about 8 frames. So we'll give them a little smoke. So they're kind of running, they're a little bit runny on there. We'll take this pollen patty out. Let's see what we're doing over here. Just to kind of show you, this hive was not split. A little bit of a difference here. Now I gotta really watch for the queen on this. This is a drone comb. You see how much this hive now has drawn that out. So I'm gonna really kind of pay close attention here. It's a little bit breezy out, so I'm not gonna go too crazy with pulling these out, but I wanna make sure. All right, so you get a little bit of what's called bridge comb. So I'm just gonna take this bridge comb, clean it up. I'm gonna set this over there right now. And they're drawing this out nice. This was an undrawn frame. Okay. We'll go over here. So they still have some room. I want to pay attention to any sort of swarm cells. See if we see the queen over here. These are freshly, not freshly laid. There's some larvae. You see the, kind of looks like a half donut or a croissant in there. All right, let's go over another one. Let's see what our queen's pattern looks like. And that is absolutely gorgeous. Holy cow. This might be a perfect frame to split. Okay, so that's, look at that, both sides. Just looking for her. So that's probably, I think there's 4,500 cells per side. So this frame alone has probably close to 7,000 bees that are gonna hatch. Yeah, if we want to swarm, we better pay close attention to this one. I might actually take some of these out and just do a makeshift nuke split here. I see a little bit of, see these down here? We got 1 that's uncharged, 2, 3. Okay, so let's keep going over. Really looking hard on this frame because it looks very good for the queen to be laying on it, just because it's a whole bunch of drawn comb. Oh, there she is. As I talk, she's right in the middle. Big old dark queen again. Almost like a tiger tail, they call it. So you see her. Let's see if we can watch her lay anything. Well, she'll stick her abdomen or her butt way down in there and lay with a single egg. Nice and calm. You see a couple of those bees tending to her. Every one of those bees is cleaning her. That's cool. All right. All right. So she's in there. Let's close this up. I think probably in the next day or two, I might have to really consider going down and splitting this hive because otherwise we're going to be dealing with a swarm. And as strong as this hive looks, one swarm and their production level goes way down because they split their hive in half or more. Okay. So what are we here? 6 for 6, finding queens. Maybe that'll be the title of the video. All right. So they're looking solid. There's pollen coming in. There's food. There's a little bit of food left in here, so we'll give that back to them.
You didn't put that little pollen pad in.
It was a yeah. So I'll show you why I didn't. So after a period of time, this is about 3 weeks old now. It gets a little bit of mold on it, and it's a little bit. It's still pliable, but they just don't take it down as fast. And plus, there's natural pollen that's coming in, and they will always prefer that over anything that you can supplement in. All right, so this hive here was split. I think I have a little shim in this one. Yep. So I put the shim here again because the split, when I used the dividing board, there were still some bees that were coming back to this area. So I think that's part of an old queen cage. My goodness. This hive was split, and I'm really looking hard at this top cover. And I don't ever want to just shake those bees on the ground or anything, not that you would, but just in case the queen is there. Looks like I have a couple new frames in here. I'll see if they're drawing anything. So this hive was split, which means that the box I'm going through right now was drawn comb and a couple new drone comb. That's a big old drone right there. Sometimes you can confuse that as a queen bee. Drones don't have stingers. Their sole purpose is to go up and mate. Nothing on this frame. Let's see if they're drawn out this next one yet. So this was just put on 5 days ago, and you can see they already have that layer of wax going on. I bet you in a week this will be all drawn out. It's amazing how fast they can work. Okay, let's see here now. This would have been probably an open frame, or drawn comb, I should say. Seeing if the queen's up there. A lot of drones on this one. It's hard to find a queen when you have a bunch of drones running around. I don't see her there. Suppose I should look at the back side too. Don't see her here either. Temperament of all the bees this year has been phenomenal, but it's also a nectar flow, so sometimes it's hard to tell exactly. A lot of drones. Check one more and then we'll close this one up. And they're drawn on this side already. No eggs in there yet. I have, you guys can probably hear that on the microphone. A lot of times the bees like to go into this fuzzy microphone cover and sting it because I think it reminds them of an animal. So you probably are having a hard time hearing me right now, but you got all kinds of buzzing. All right. Let's close these guys back up. We're gonna have to really watch this one. This one, the population really is impressive. So the nectar flow here in Wisconsin, again, we're in the Fox Valley. It's Mother's Day today. The nectar flow is still probably 2 weeks out. So some of these hives are a little concerning because They like to swarm right before the main nectar flow. All right, this was another split. This was the split that we did where we just put the queen excluder in after confirming the queen was on the bottom. And then after 2 days, we actually just moved this split right over here. I only had 3 of the dividing boards, so we'll see how they're doing. So this was just a split where we ensured that we had brood up on top, make sure the queen was on the bottom, let the nurse bees come up, and then we just moved it. So let's see what that method looks like. And it looks just excellent. So you can see how much they've eaten, which is more than all the other splits that we've done. So I guess one could argue that maybe that was a better split method. I wouldn't say that. I think it's whatever works for your area. And given our climate, I was getting, almost tipped over my smoker. It was getting down to about 40s to 50s at night. So I had a little bit of concern about the brood and wanting warmth, but I think there's enough bees in here that they were able to keep them nice and warm. So again, we're going to look for a green dot queen. So this is the 3rd frame in, and some of that brood you can tell already hatched out. So their population is doing really good. I don't see the green dot queen on this side. I also don't see much nectar in here, so it's good that we're feeding them. I don't see a green dot there, but I see single eggs in all these cells. Most of the cells. Okay, so she wasn't there yet. I look pretty quick on these because, again, she has a green dot, so it really stands out right when you look at the frame if she's there or not. There she is, right where you would expect. So if you look at this brood pattern, the middle is hatching out. There she just looked. She looked in a cell. So because these are hatching out, queens love to go back and lay that area. So you see the queen there, and you see, I just saw one, a bee hatching out right here, right there. So I know where my queen is, but she's on the edge. I'm going to kind of wait for her to see where she's going to go, and I'll put her back in. Okay, so I see where she is. And they're going to be in need of a second box here, probably in a couple days. All right. So we are 7 for 8 finding queens. Everything looks good. Haven't seen any queen or swarm cells. Best Mother's Day ever, right, hon? All right, this is one of my original boxes that I made. You can tell I was using a router. I actually did the box joints, so it's kind of cool. I've since improved it, and I don't use the box joints as much. I use rabbited joints, but kind of cool. All right, last one. You still good?
Yep.
All right. So this was, let's see, we did a split off of this hive. So again, I am satisfied with the amount of food that I had in the hive with frames from a couple frames of honey that I had that I put into these. This hive and one over there, if I ever got into grafting, you can tell they just don't run nearly as much. Just really calm, easy to work with. I have mostly Italian. Look at that. Wow. They have done more work on that drone comb than any of the other hives. Drone comb is much bigger and puffier. There's several different reasons to use drone comb with mite control, with keeping your hives clean so they don't build as much on the bottom, but I won't go into all that today. We're just checking for queens and the back side of this too. Now, I really want to look for the queen. They're not drawn out quite enough yet, but the queens like the drone comb. And the fact that they did this amount of work in that 1 week period of time, because it was what, just last Sunday that we put queens in?
Yes.
Or split? I don't remember exactly what it, no, it would have been last Sunday, which was 7 days ago. I introduced a caged queen after having split these hives. So yeah, they've done all this work. Wow, that is just a lot of pollen in there, honey on the outside. That's probably a lot of it from last year. So this would have been, oh, hi, Gray. I got a little one coming down. All right, had my youngest daughter come down here. I don't really mind her coming down here in the spring because the bees are pretty nice in the fall. We usually get her bee suit on just because, look at this. Pollen is falling off on top. There's pollen here, 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 here. This hive is just bringing it in. Holy cow. All right, let's really look for our queen on this frame. I see a lot. It's a little bit concerning here. There's just a lot there. These ones don't mean a whole lot, but with this population, even though we split them, they're storing a lot. Drawing this out. Drawing this out. That queen might not have a ton of spots to lay. Let me just see. I'm going to go over a frame or two. All right, so these ones are undrawn here. I'm just going to go back through, see if I can spot her. I see a bunch of bees on my top cover. Let's just peek and see if potentially she's up there. Okay, so very good. I have one more. Oh, yeah, one. I didn't like my little fuzzy thing. Let's see here. I'm gonna have to get a couple more stones down here. So we had 7 of 9 queens that we found, and they all look really good. A lot of these over here are looking like we need to make some decisions whether or not we want to split. I do have one more bee yard out at Peaceful Valley again this year that I want to get some bees out to. So what I might do is split some of these with the intention of putting them into a nuke box with maybe like 3 or 4 frames of brood just to really lessen these ones down and have those explode out at that other yard. If I don't, might have a little bit of swarming, but it's looking really good. Nectar flow is going to start soon. So our method of splitting worked perfectly. We used 2 different methods where same concept initially, but one we used the double screen dividing board in order to keep the warmth. We moved those, all those look really good. And then this one here, we just separated them in the main colony. We separated the 2 deep boxes, making sure the queen was on the bottom. Just moved this one directly over here. And this one, I would say, as far as splits go, is probably doing the best. Now, there's a couple different factors with that. They could have had more brood, whatever it is, but they're all looking extremely solid. So this time of year, nectar's coming in, pollen's coming in. I don't want to say beekeeping is easy, but you can do a lot of different stuff and be successful. So with that, thanks for watching. We'll keep you updated